Welcome to Puck Talk CS. Today we have a special guest joining the show with splendid timing. On Thursday, July 7th, the 2022 NHL entry-level draft was held in the Bell Center, where the home team also possessed the first overall pick. The Curfew Boys are a group of lifelong friends who discuss and debate all things Montreal Canadiens. Welcome. So, we have one of the Curfew Boys on today, Salvatore, but he goes by Sam. So tell us a little bit about how the Curfew Boys came to be.
How's it going, guys? First off, thanks for having me. It's great meeting you both. It's as simple as it gets. Myself and my boys, Anthony, Joey, Alex, and Adriano. We're 5 Italian guys that grew up in the typical suburb in the city of Montreal. Grew up in the Italian community. Basically went to high school together, known each other since the age of 12. The one thing we all had in common was we were diehard Montreal Canadiens fans, and that's how we all connected. That's how I connected with them, at least. Grew up together, went to each other's weddings, attended the same colleges together. And throughout time, as, life happens, you get older, you start raising a family, but we always kept in touch through Facebook Messenger. Always commented about the Canadiens. We watched games together, or if we, in our own separate homes watching games, we would message each other, either criticizing or complimenting the team, certain players, etc. And we kept doing that for years and years. Then the pandemic hit, and like everybody else in the world, we were all stuck inside our homes, not really had the chance to see anybody. And when the platform Zoom started making its way up there in the world and becoming popular, my buddy Anthony had an idea saying, let's just meet together on Zoom after the game. We watched the game. I don't remember which game it was exactly, but it was some preseason game. After that, we all met on Zoom, talked about the game. We're just doing the usual stuff Montreal Canadiens fans do. And little did we know that Anthony had recorded it. He listened to it, and he really liked what he heard. He liked how we have such a great dynamic as long life friends. We talk about the Canadiens, but at the same time too, long time buddies. We bust each other's chops, try to make it fun, try to be funny. And he really sat there and was like, guys, this is really good. This sounds really good. Let's try to make something out of it. So he came up with the idea of let's do a Montreal Canadiens podcast, and coming up with names here in at least in Canada, but specifically within the province of Quebec and within the city of Montreal, we were all given curfew hours to stay in. So I don't know who brought it up. Some will argue it's Anthony, some will argue it's Alex that came up with the name the Curfew Boys. Some of us were like, we didn't think it was the greatest name of all time, but at the same time too, it fit of what was going on at that time. So we kept it, it stuck. And, we've been going at it this is the end of our second season now. It started with the pandemic hockey season, and here we are now, just grinding it out, just keep it going. We try to build the Montreal Canadiens community, and so far so good. It's been a fun ride so far.
Well, you've had some great experiences then with the Canadiens' kind of successes, and also with some of their struggles in the last few seasons. They've been one of the hockey clubs that have had a really, really interesting history in just a short amount of time. They're the Yankees of the hockey world, right? Time. And in retrospect, what was it like experiencing a Stanley Cup Final berth in 2021 to being in last place in 2022? And you had just mentioned that you would watch the bubble season as well, and you'd been recording the podcast then. They surprisingly beat the Pittsburgh Penguins in the bubble. So what was the experience like seeing the team surprise and shock the world twice with a pretty good bubble playoff going to the Cup final in 2021 and defeating Vegas to get the opportunity to be in the finals and then being in last place in 2022?
I could definitely tell you one thing. Myself, my buddies, the city of Montreal, when they went to the Stanley Cup Finals, when they beat Vegas during our provincial holiday, Saint Jean Baptiste, I think somewhere else around the world they must have heard the ground shaking. That's how crazy the city went. For myself personally, I couldn't believe it because I was born in 1988. So when the last time the Montreal Canadiens won in 93, I was only I was not even 5 years old yet. So I don't remember that. I don't remember that Stanley Cup win at all. So for me and many other Habs fans out there, this is the closest we got to hockey's holy grail. And when that happened, like when Artturi Lehkonen scored that overtime goal, like I dropped to my knees and I was just in shock. Like I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that my all-time favorite team in any sport is going to compete for the Stanley Cup. Seeing what they did during those playoffs, seeing what they did even the bubble against Pittsburgh, it all comes down to one player and one player only, and that's Carey Price. He's been my favorite goalie since he got drafted. And he's just been carrying the load for this franchise for so many years now. And it's just during those playoffs, like uh, just the bubble playoffs, like you knew they were gonna win because Carey Price got to the heads of the Pittsburgh Penguins. There was that whole deal where like, should they allow Montreal to be in? That doesn't seem fair because let's be honest, they were not a playoff team during that time. You could even argue that during the 2021 season, they weren't the playoff team either. But as soon as you knew that the Canadiens were in, they got accepted into the bubble playoffs. You knew Pittsburgh right away. They were intimidated by that one player only, and that was Carey Price. And he got to their heads. He got to their heads even before the series started. And, it's just when you have a leader like that, just carrying the load, it inspires others around him to just play better. You had Nick Suzuki, who just started to bloom during those playoffs. That's when we really start to see, okay, Nick Suzuki, this kid's got something. And you had veteran leadership in Shea Weber, in Jeff Petrie, who had a pretty good playoff run that time, in Ben Sherrod as well. And it kind of carried on, I guess, like just that playoff experience kind of carried on into the playoff experience that we all saw last season. And it's just with the leadership, with the acquisitions of someone like Eric Stahl or even Corey Perry. Corey Perry was a huge leader within that locker room. It's just it was unreal. It was just unreal to be a part of, unreal to see the way they came back against the Leafs down 3-1 was just a thing of beauty, something that we could brag to Leafs fans for at least for the rest of my life, and I look forward to that. Sweeping Winnipeg. Then I thought they were going to have a hard time against Vegas. Vegas is a pretty good team. They're a big team. They're a fast team. But Marc-Andre Fleury, he's got a history. When it comes to the playoffs and facing the Montreal Canadiens, Marc-Andre Fleury has a bad track record. And I truly believe that's why the Canadiens beat them. It took he did that one misplay behind the net, loose puck in front to Josh Anderson, buries it easily to tie the game with less than a minute left. And then from then on, the Canadiens just took momentum and they ran away with it. It was just beautiful to see. Nick Suzuki, he just became the player that we all knew he was going to become. He didn't even scratch the surface yet. Cole Caulfield, he makes his rookie debut in the playoffs. He starts scoring goals. I'm a big believer that momentum, but just every single player being on the same level of like competing and wanting to win. As soon as everyone on the team is on that same level, you can beat anybody. And that's why I truly believe the Canadiens were able to go to the Stanley Cup Finals last season.
Interesting. I thought that first of all, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I think
Yeah, thanks, man.
you brought up a really good point about Carey Price. Now, before we jump into the whole draft, I know that there's a huge uncertainty surrounding the health of Carey Price. What he's got left in the tank. There's also Jake Allen. So
Mm-hmm.
it's clear there may be a need to find a goaltender on the market. So as a Canadians fan, if let's say Price is unable to play, or how about this? What is your faith in Price moving forward? What is your expectation
Well,
for the whole goaltending situation right now?
here's the thing. Somewhere last week, somebody spread the news saying that Carey Price is ready to go. Apparently, he's going to be healthy enough to start the season. But then a day before the draft, Kent Hughes said, "This is news to me." So right now, it's still up in the air. Are we going to find out at free agent day? I have no idea. I want to be optimistic. I really, really do. But I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about Price right now. I really, really don't. Do I think his career is over? Not yet, but I don't think he'll be back for the start of the season. If that happens, I'm curious to see if they put his contract on long-term injury reserve. They got rid of Shea Weber's contract, so that clears up a bit more room to put a contract like Price at 10.5 million a year. It gives them a little bit more leeway like that. If they do have let's be honest, the Canadians have hefty contracts right now. And so if they do need Price's contract to go on LTIR to have a bit more wiggle room, I think that's going to happen. Jake Allen, I love him. He's probably the best backup goaltender in the league. But the guy is not a number one goaltender. The guy cannot play more than 40, 50 games in a season because every time he does, he risks getting injured. He's a great goalie. He literally holds the fort. He needs better guys in front of him. But Jake Allen cannot be the one to carry the load. Now, they gave a qualifying offer to, backup goaltender to Jake Allen, Samuel Montembeault. I'm pretty sure he's going to accept it. The guy wants a job, especially local boy. He's going to take it. For them to give him a qualifying offer, it's because I think they're anticipating Price to not start the season. Let's not even forget there's Caden Primo with the Laval Rocket in the minors, who had a very, very, very successful playoff run. He was the best player for the Laval Rocket. They gave him a qualifying offer too. Right now, the goaltending situation, it's so funny how for years we were so used to having the best goalie in the world to now being like, my God, we might not have a goalie anymore, yet we're finally putting together a team, a pool of prospects that hopefully could take us to the promised land one day. There seems to be light at the end of the tunnel, but damn it, now we have a goaltender situation. It's really it's like a roller coaster of emotions when it comes to this team. I tell you.
Yeah, I have a question as well. Just building upon Carey Price, the question that Steve had asked, like when Carey Price walks into a bar, what is it like in Montreal? You mentioned right before we hopped on, how the city reacted with the draft, which we'll get to, but also how the city was reacting with the game 6 overtime when they defeated Vegas. So what's it like? What is it like being a player in Montreal? I mean, can you speak to what the media is like in Montreal?
So hockey in Montreal is our religion, and these players are like gods to us. So seriously, like Carey Price, like he wherever he goes, there's people are in awe of him, and I keep hearing that he's a great person, he's a very humble person, he's very kind, but wherever he goes, like it's like, oh my God, that's Carey Price. At one point in time, the nickname that we used to give him was Jesus Price, just because he was that good and he was literally saving the Canadians. So these guys are literally they're like the highest public figures that you could possibly think of. they're we're so emotionally invested into this team and therefore these players. Like same thing's gonna happen with Nick Suzuki. Same things. It's already started with Nick Suzuki. It's already started with Cole Caulfield. But Carey Price, he just had that world class elite status in our eyes. That they're like rock stars, superstars. They're movie stars. They're gods. They're all of that in the city. It's it could be a blessing or it could be a curse. It depends who you ask. But one thing's for sure, it's just the pressure from the fan base, the pressure from the media in both languages, English and French. I think it's Max. I think Max Pacioretty said this on a radio talk show somewhere, or he goes, "It's amazing when you're playing well, and it's could be rough when you're playing bad." So is it a bipolar effect? Yeah, maybe. But at the end of the day, you got to respect the level of passion and knowledge amongst the fans. And like, it's just, and given the history that they have, 24 Stanley Cups, I understand eras are different now in hockey, but when you're the most winning franchise in hockey, like you want to maintain that standard, and we just want to see another Stanley Cup again.
Yes.
Yeah, and now sorry, Steve, I don't know what you were gonna say anything? Yeah, I was gonna mention you had changes at the top, and Jeff Gorton comes in. He had just drafted Lafreniere for the 2020 draft as the first overall draft selection. And now everything that we've just discussed led to the Montreal Canadiens having the first overall pick of the 2022 draft. So was there any feeling with Shane Wright? I think there's a lot of questions that circle around with that, but what was the city of Montreal feeling? And we'll, of course, dive into Slafkovsky in a moment, but who did you originally want to be drafted with that selection?
Yeah, I think the popular demand or want amongst Habs fans was Shane Wright. Simply because since the age of 15, he was like he had that phenom year. At the age of 15, 16, scoring 36 goals in the Ontario Hockey League. He's a centerman. He molds his game around Patrice Bergeron, who's local boy as well, very well respected within Canada, within the province of Quebec and Montreal, even amongst the hockey world. So we're there thinking, okay, we have a centerman like Nick Suzuki who molds his game around Patrice Bergeron. Why not have a second one who could play after him, or they could both share first line center duties or what have you? But maybe Shane Wright has that. In my opinion, I think he has a better shot than someone like Nick Suzuki, probably a bit more of a scoring touch. So for all those reasons, I personally wanted Shane Wright because, again, for years now, and I'm talking about since the days of like Saku Koivu, who was my favorite captain at the time, we never had a legitimate number one centerman. Like never. Like Saku Koivu, God love him, he's not a top line center. You put him on any good team at that time, he's not a number one centerman. Okay, so we're all here thinking like, my God, we have the first overall pick. We have someone who was projected to go first overall, a centerman. You know, like the stars are aligned for once, finally. So the entire city was, I'm pretty sure rooting for him. You go on Twitter, you go on social media, and everybody's saying how much they want Shane Wright. They're saying Slafkovsky is a good player, but he only showed up once the Olympics were over, 7 goals in 7 games, helped Slovakia win their first ever Olympic medal. So we're trying to you're trying to compare the two, right? You're seeing how Shane Wright in his junior season, he still put up numbers. Probably not as much as we all anticipated or how he was projected. He still put up decent numbers. Okay. One thing that not only Jeff Gordon, but Kent Hughes, I believe this team is being run by a two-headed monster, and that's those two gentlemen. They really kept us guessing until the last second, until the very selection was made. And they really kept this close to their chest. They did not give us any indication as to who they were going to pick. You kept hearing over and over, we still don't know, we still don't know, we still don't know. I'm here thinking, okay, guys, like, cut the crap. you know who you guys pick. You don't have to tell us. Obviously, don't tell us. But stop it with this. We don't know. We don't know yet. We don't know yet. We don't know yet. Just say we've made our selections. We're still doing our homework, due diligence, whatever you want to call it. But we have an idea who we want, et cetera, et cetera. You keep hearing that Shane Wright, he had a phone call with Vincent Le Cavalier, who's like personal assistant of Jeff Gordon. He was on the phone with Marty St. Louis, the new head coach. He went to dinner with the guys, whereas Slafkovsky, they've only met him via Zoom or however you want to call it, telephone. All signs were pointing that it was Shane Wright. But then you suddenly hear Slafkovsky's meeting with Montreal management the morning of the draft. So everyone's there. They're like, oh my God, wait a minute. What is going on here? So it just took the debate to a whole new level. That same day, the city was rocking. If you look footages outside the Bell Center, it was packed. They made these kids, again, in Montreal, they made them feel like hockey gods. And honestly, I swear to you, I get, as soon as the announcement's made, just maybe seconds before, I get a notification on my phone from a French-speaking hockey analyst. He goes, according to sources, so-and-so, the Canadiens are picking Juraj Slafkovsky. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding me. Kent Hughes makes the announcement, Juraj Slafkovsky. And to be quite honest, I was disappointed. And I'm going to explain why. I didn't think they picked a less talented player. No matter what, I think in terms of talent level and potential throughout their careers, I think Slafkovsky and Shane Wright they're neck and neck. But I really wanted a centerman. So when the selection was made, Slafkovsky's name comes up. I'm there. I'm like, I don't know. I'm there wondering. I hope they didn't make the right decision. But no matter what, I'll support the pick. In Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon, we trust. I'm there. I'm trying to tell myself, I'm not trying to be too in denial. And then when later on they made the trade, when they traded, our defenseman Alexander Romanov, who the fan base loved and adored because this kid hit like a tank, but he gave his heart and his soul for this team since day one. He made this team and this city his home and his family. So when the trade was first announced for picks to the to the Blackhawks for Kirby Dach, that's when I was like, okay, this all makes sense now. Getting another centerman in return at 6'4", third overall pick in 2019. I'm there. I freaked. The funny thing is, I was working that night. I was with my colleagues too that are Habs fans like me, and we all freaked out. It was what the Montreal Canadiens organization did was they put on such a show as if, when you guys go to a concert, there's the opening band and then there's the main band that comes on. The Montreal Canadiens were the main band, but they took the spot of the opening act. They put on their show, mic drop, and told all the other teams, have fun.
Yeah.
See if
We're done here.
We're done here. Exactly.
Stole the show in their own building.
They really did. And again, it's not to criticize Marc Bergevin and the management of the past, but like you could tell there's a lot more of, how can I put this? Like Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon, they're different hockey minds. And we're not used to it yet as a fan base. Like, we're so used to the Marc Bergevin era for the past 9 years, of making good trades, but it was always this, we'll see what happens. We'll hope to make the playoffs, because then after that, once you make the playoffs, you never know. Whereas now Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon, they're like, no, we have a plan. It might take a while, but this plan is going to work. And they delivered. They delivered. I just hope it works out for Kirby Dach. I think him and a brand new team could help him with a coach like Marty St. Louis. I think he could thrive under this guy. And we're excited. The fans now are loving Slafkovsky. The more footage we see of him, the more we're seeing that he's got quite the personality that you get along with this person easily. It's crazy how fans went from like, not that they didn't like him, they didn't want him, and all of a sudden they love him, just because just the way he's interacting with fans, and just how he's saying he's going to do everything he can in his power to make us like him. It's so far so good. Like I'm excited. I know I got to be patient. Habs fans, we need to manage our expectations. That's one thing we suck at doing. But also, all signs, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and all signs are pointing in the right direction so far.
So when they announced the first pick, the draft starts, and they announced the first pick, you were disappointed at first.
I was. I said I just wanted Shane Wright because I wanted a centerman. I wanted, for the first time, we might have depth at center in the future. But again, that was before the trade announcement for Kirby Dach was made. So again, once that announcement was made, once that trade was made, then I was a lot more at ease with the pick. And then I start to see how, the pieces of the puzzle were placed, how things are in motion, and it made a lot more sense to me now.
So the trade is made, and now, we talked about the trade and the picks. You covered a lot of bases there, which I'm really glad, because I think a lot of our listeners will appreciate kind of what it means as a Canadiens fan after the draft. It was a very interesting first round overall, but the way the Canadiens approached the draft was now quickly in retrospect, not even a week later, it looks like they won that first round. You have Kirby Dach. He had 9 goals, 17 assists, 26 points in 70 games this season. And in his career, 19 goals, 59 points in 152. He's 6'4", 196 pounds. He's just 21 years old. You brought up center depth and that they needed center help at center and a strong centerman. Now you have a 6'4", 196 pound center who Elite Prospects describes as a two-way center with exceptional hockey sense. Dach is also a highly skilled playmaker who sees openings that most players don't. Despite his large stature, he is surprisingly shifty and equipped with fine hands and creativity. For Slafkovsky, you have a 6'4", 229-pound left winger, 18 years old, and the EP 2022 draft guide described Slafkovsky as bringing a lot more to the table than just brute force. What makes him a unique prospect is how he turns those extended possession sequences into legitimate scoring chances. Sometimes it's a drive to the net front for a chance of his own. Other times he'll handle his way into a passing opportunity and send the puck to a line mate to finish the job. Where do they fit into the lineup next year? What's the projection about 5 days after the draft?
We're all hoping that he's on the first line left wing with Nick Suzuki at center and Cole Caulfield on the right.
Okay.
That is, for now, probably, I can speak for all Habs fans when I say this, that's probably the dream line right now to start the season.
That would get me excited.
It's just, and the thing is, it's, we also have Josh Anderson, who's a right winger, another big power forward, but he's too much of a one-dimensional player. Like when he gets the puck on the wing, he skates like the wind. He's a fast guy for a big player, but that's all he does. He just grabs the puck, head down, power forward through the zone, and tries to bring the puck to the net. When he was on a line with Suzuki and Caulfield last season, he was there to create a bit more space for those two. The problem was, like I said, he's too much of a one-dimensional player. His only thing is like either body check someone within the forechecking, but if you have the puck, just carry it down the wing, bring it to the net, see what happens. I feel like Slafkovsky has that same brute force, but he could make a play. He can make a heads up play. I think he could be, in a sense, a smarter player than Anderson, in the sense that he'll know how to find guys properly, but at the same time to create open space for those two. But even having said that, he could find himself open space and use his size as an advantage to, protect the puck and get around either defenders or other covering wingers, forwards, what have you. So, and the great thing is, I saw him today in Montreal, or at their training facility. There they have the development camp for the prospects, or mostly the young guns, whether they're under contract or not. I saw Slafkovsky today. The kid's a tank. He's a beast. He's a monster. He's I think everything that Matthew described about him, I think probably even more. I don't know if you guys saw on social media the video of him on the bike sprinting on like the exercise bike.
Yeah.
I swear to you, like the running joke amongst myself and my buddies within the Curfew Boys, even my family members, is like he literally pulled an Ivan Drago from Rocky 4. Like I must break you, bike, and he just went. That whole thing, if the bike dies, it dies type of attitude. And he said it himself. Like once the trainer was like, "My God, you almost broke that thing," he joked about it. He's like, I'm probably gonna break everything in the training room. He's obviously joking, but like this kid at the age of 18, at the weight class that he's in, he's lead. This kid's in top shape. Probably he's gonna get in even better shape if he keeps it up like this. That's why I think the Canadiens picked him. He's NHL ready right now. And at the age of 17, he played against men in Finland, in the Olympics, in the World Championships. He's ready. And the more and more we see that, the more and more we understand and realize why Jeff Gordon Kent Hughes picked this kid. He's the next hero in town.
Were there any other deeper draft picks? I know there was a complimentary player to Slafkovsky that they also had drafted. And I know there were other players that were selected in the later rounds that a lot of the times could be viewed as steals. Now, I believe it's Philip Mesna.
Yeah, Philip Mezar. How even I myself have a hard time pronouncing.
He played with Slafkovsky, correct? And the Canadiens had also drafted him.
They did. They played for Slovakia. I believe it was not in the Olympics, but in the World Championships. The best thing apart is those two are best friends. Like they grew up together. They've known each other since they were kids. There's another video circulating amongst Montreal Canadiens social media, is that he was in the locker room when they announced it, and when they told him, he freaked out. He couldn't believe it. He was so happy. Then later on, in one of the hallways, or I think like backstage or something, he went up to like Philip Meshar walks up to him, and Juraj Slafkovsky just grabs him and picks him up, lifts him off the ground. They were so happy because him and Nemec from that the New Jersey Devils selected, those three of them, all Slovakians, those three are best friends. They all grew up together, and there's a nice picture of those three together. It was really, really cool to see. As far as other steals in the draft, there's a defenseman that the Canadiens picked in I believe it was in their fourth. It was in the third round, but their fourth selection, Lane Hudson. If you see highlights of this kid, you would think you're looking at either Cale Makar or Quinn Hughes in junior. I really truly believe this kid is the steal of the draft because like looking at his highlights, this kid's got explosiveness at the point. He's able to make plays. He's able to carry the puck, heads up plays, and he's just got like this quickness to his game. The thing is, now some of us are a bit concerned that he's only at the height of 5'8" or 5'9", but word has it that he still hasn't grown to his potential yet. He's supposed to grow another like 2-3 inches. Something about his bone structure within his body. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how to describe this, but he's just supposed to grow another 2-3 inches. So if that's the case, there's a lot of comparisons to him with someone like Quinn Hughes or even Adam Fox. So Habs fans are really, really excited about this kid. I may sound biased, but I think that's the steal of the draft, at least amongst defensemen. Because if he turns out to be anything similar like Quinn Hughes or like Adam Fox, who he models his game after, apparently. I think Adam Fox is his favorite defenseman. Like the Canadiens have something good when it comes to defense. But the thing about defense is that, especially on the left side, the Canadiens have so many prospects on the left hand side on defense. That's one of the reasons why they were able to trade Romanov to attain Kirby Dach. Even though the GM, Kent Hughes, said he tried his best not to give up Romanov, unfortunately, you're going to have to give up something good to get something good. But now with the acquisition of Lane Hudson, he's going to go back. I don't think he's going to go back to the U.S. National Development. I think he's actually going to start his NCAA season. Um, we're excited for him. That's one kid. We're all excited about Slafkovsky, Meshar. Could even add an Owen Beck in there, but this kid Lane Hudson, especially amongst the defensemen that we drafted, this kid's on top of the list.
Yeah, I think the Canadians brought in a lot of, or probably the most talent into their organization in the draft, in my eyes, than any other team in the league. And I think your perspective is a new perspective and good on our show because we do have a lot of fans and listeners who are Canadians fans from that area. So how about this? I'll ask you this. After the draft now, after you got a lot of time to actually sit there and think about it, how do you feel? Are you feeling confident? What's the mood right now as a fan?
It's very optimistic, very, very, very optimistic. There's still, again, I don't want to get too carried away with it. I think I'm able to manage my own expectations. Myself and the rest of the Curfew Boys, we tease each other back and forth, but we know that we got to manage our expectations. We are feeling very confident in Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon. We just know that it's gonna require a bit more time and patience for these kids to really reach their potential. And if they do, the Montreal Canadiens could be a very dangerous team. And right now, the latest rumor circulating is that the Canadiens might acquire Pierre-Luc Dubois from the Winnipeg Jets. If that happens, forget it. This city is gonna prepare a Stanley Cup parade before the season even starts. I tell you now, we're not as bad as the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm going to take every opportunity to poke fun at the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're not as bad as them, but it's just, listen, Habs fans, we're unique. I have to admit, where we sometimes go too far in our critique or in our optimism, as I may say. But I think, especially with the new management, bringing in an analytics team, bringing in proper coaches for development, not just on the ice, but off the ice, bringing in Canadian superstar for women's hockey. She, my goodness, we call her Captain Clutch. Now I'm having this is embarrassing. I'm drawing a memory blank here, but we brought her in. She's going to be helping the kids as well. There's just, it's a breath of fresh air. It really, really, really finally is. We're optimistic. We're excited, and I think I just think the only thing that's missing is the goaltending situation. I think once we all know what's going on with Carey Price, or if they have somebody else in mind that could potentially carry the number one spot in the future, I think once that's settled, majority of us, and I think Habs fans, we could finally consider this team contenders in the future. I'm excited. I'm really excited. I know I keep saying it, but maybe it's just me, my nature. I'm an optimistic person, but we'll see, man. Time will tell, and especially with Marty St. Louis as the new head coach, time's gonna tell.
It's all positive things. Now, how about this? I'll ask you this. Let's say you're in the GM chair right now. And we brought up, I think we can all agree that goaltending is the one gray area right now for the Canadians moving on. Now, what is your expectation for next season? Do you think the Canadians feel confident in going out and acquiring a goalie on the free agent market? There's a few goaltenders out there. Or do you think that next year is more of a building year for the next season? What do you think is the expectation? How does the goaltending plan fit into there?
Again, it comes down to Carey Price. And before I get into that, our captain clutch amongst women's hockey is Marie-Philippe Poulin. There you go. I can't believe I forgot her name. I had a memory blank for a second. Marie-Philippe Poulin, bringing her in was another key factor in terms of the development staff amongst the Canadians. Now, goaltending situation. If Price is back, I think because of the issues he has with his knee, he's not going to be playing more than 50 games. Do they still keep Jake Allen? At that point, I don't know. I think Jake Allen is the best backup to Price. You bring in a guy like Samuel Montembeault, who, didn't play too well, but did his best to hold the fort last season. He probably could be the backup. if Price does come back, I could expect Jake Allen to be on the trade block. He already is right now. There's already tons of rumors circulating that he might go. There's other teams that need goalies too. So a lot's going to come down to Carey Price. If he doesn't start the season, I don't think they'll trade Jake Allen. I just think they're going to split duties between him and Samuel Montembeault. And you know what? They're just going to, especially if majority of the kids are in the lineup, Marty St. Louis' philosophy is just let the kids play, let them, learn and grow with their talent and skills that they can demonstrate. If that's the case, I don't see the Canadians making the playoffs just yet next year. Personally, I would like for them to tank for any chance at Connor Bedard. I really, really do. Is that going to happen? Probably not. I can't really see that happening, at least at the start of the season under Marty St. Louis. Then again, you never know what could happen. But right now, the big thing is there is a goaltender situation in Montreal, but there's also a cap situation with the Canadiens as well. They got pretty big contracts here that they're trying to move to create cap space to sign their future stars. So you're putting names out there like Mike Hoffman, Jonathan Drouin, Christian Dvorak. There's a huge demand for Josh Anderson. He's got a pretty big contract at 5.5 for the next 4 or 5 years. We have Brendan Gallagher, who was like, the heart and soul of this team since he got put into the lineup. Him too. There's lots of wear and tear on his body, and I'm not sure if he's going to get any better. Another 5-6 years at $6.5 million. There's heavy contracts coming around. Jeff Petrie, who's probably the name amongst defensemen that's highly out there in terms of trade block too. He's another guy at 2 years at I believe it's 6.75 million. If Kent Hughes can get rid of those contracts, free up some cap space, I truly think he's gonna look for one more top pick next year in next year's draft. And I think once that's done, if that happens, then this is, I think, the team that we're going to see to, carry into the future.
All right. On that note, plug away. Tell us where we can find the Curfew Boys.
You can definitely find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You could hear all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Those are the 3 platforms we have right now. We're hoping as of next season to get a good YouTube channel going and deliver episodes via video instead of just audio. But that remains to be seen. But it's in the works, it's in the plans, and we're hoping to get it done.
That's been our latest endeavor, right, Steve?
Of course, yes. And obviously I want to thank you again for joining us, because you obviously are very well spoken. You're a great hockey mind, and it seriously was a pleasure having you on. All of you guys can go check out the Curfew Boys on the link below. We'll plug all their information there. Seriously, go check them out, because it was great talking to you, and it was great talking. It really was.
I appreciate being on here, guys. Like I said, we love collabing with other hockey podcasts. Just meeting other hockey fans around North America, around the world too. It's fun. It's been our favorite sport since childhood, and we'll continue to love it till the end of time. So it's definitely been my pleasure on behalf of the Curfew Boys. Like, I thank you for having me. It was great meeting you, Steven and Matthew. Honestly, more than glad to be a part of this.
Thank you so much. And for Puck Talk CS, you can find us, if you're listening on the website right now, on Apple and Spotify. And we'll have some more uploads this summer, hopefully with some great special guests. We had Johnny Lazarus, Avery Zaretsky. We now had the Curfew Boys on, and we're looking to have a little more of an outreach with some more team-based podcasts, because we just find so much more information from that. Right, Steve?
Of course, 100%. Moving forward, it's looking good for the Montreal Canadiens, but they still have a lot and a long road to take forward to. But for the start, it looks very good. The future's bright. Any last words before we wrap it up?
Go Habs, go. We'll see. We'll go Habs, go. That's all I could say. We'll see what happens, but I'm looking forward to the start of the new hockey season. It's always fun, it gives us something to look forward to in the fall and the winter. So yeah, go Habs, go, and we'll see everybody else on the ice in the near future.
Always remember, it's just the luck of the puck.